Yibane, we will build it. Olam chesed yibane. We will build this world from love. Yibane, we will build it.
Good morning, and welcome to today's Elul Soul Brew. Curated voices from around the world, bringing you on a journey through introspection and inspiration leading up to the high holidays. I'm Rabbi Bluth, host and producer of the Soul Brews with the Beth Tzedek Center for Spiritual Wellbeing in Toronto. Today I'm excited to welcome Rabbi Artson. Rabbi Artson is the chair of the Ziegler School for Rabbinical Studies and is vice president of the American Jewish University in LA. Rabbi Artson has long been an advocate for social justice, human dignity, diversity, and inclusion. We have a lot to learn from Rabbi Artson, and we're so happy to be welcoming you to help brew our souls this morning as we lead up to the high holidays in our morning 9 a.m. daily soul brews. And we'd love to hear from everyone who's watching this program, so please give us your thoughts, feedback, questions, and whatever it is that your soul's brewing in the comments below using the hashtag #BTSoulBrew. So, Rabbi Artson, please share with us, leading up to the high holidays, what is your soul brewing?
Good morning, everyone. Leading up to the high holidays, my soul is brewing the reality that the world, its glory, its mystery are bigger than any one religion. And the paradox of our spiritual life is, how do we give words to what is greater than words? How do we act as though we can be in service of something that is so amorphous that it escapes our control? We have to talk about what's impossible to talk about. My name is Rabbi Bradley Shavit Artson. I'm the Dean of the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies at American Jewish University in Los Angeles. I'm also the Dean of the Zacharias Frankel College, training conservative and Masorti rabbis in Europe. That school's located in Berlin. So let's think about what this is in the light of what we know from the High Holy Days. The tension in religious life, one of the tensions in religious life, is that we act as though we own God. We act as though we can stick God in our pocket and God is there at our control and our command at any moment. We also act as though our religion is true in a way that your religion isn't, so that religions parade themselves as monopolies, when in fact I think all of us are struggling to put into words, to create a relationship with something bigger than human language and human concepts. Now, I'm not the only one who thinks that. Let's take a look, because not only has my soul been brewing this, but it turns out the soul of the Jewish people has been brewing this for thousands of years. So let's take a look in the High Holiday liturgy, and I'm going to give you the page numbers to Machzor Lev Shalem. I'm assuming that's the one you're using. It may not be. I don't know. This is the latest publication of the conservative movement of the Rabbinical Assembly. So on page 166, after the shofar is blown, and good news, even if you're not using that Machzor, that prayer book, it's after the shofar blowing in every one. So, Hayom Harat Olam. On this day, the world is born. What a beautiful, powerful image that something new is coming into being, that we're not just gathered to check off a bunch of rituals, we're giving birth to something. And then it goes on to say, Hayom Ya'amid B'mishpat Kol Yitzurei Olamim. And so today, all the creatures everywhere are standing in judgment. And now here comes the multiple naming part. Im kevanim, im ke'avadim. They could be standing in judgment as children. They could be standing in judgment as servants. That's to say that there's an aspect of humanity that is childlike compared to the rest of the world. We're relatively recent additions on planet Earth. We're still figuring out our way. And then, in a way, we're also ke'avadim. We're like servants. We make decisions that have impact for the whole planet, for other species. So we become the caretakers of our planet, just as the book of Genesis understands. But what's striking to me is that implies two different roles for God, and that's what the prayer makes clear. Im ka'avadim rachamenu karachem av albanim. If we're like children, then you, God, be like a parent and show love and mercy for your children. Ve'im ka'avadim einenu lecha tluyot. And if we're like servants, then realize how totally dependent we are on you as our master. And so release us from the verdict. Now, that introduces the idea that no one way of thinking about God can cover the subject. That the best we can do is, instead of trying to pick which one way is the best and then stick to that way, to be able to multiply terms for the divine. In Muslim tradition, there are often these beautiful calligraphed posters that have 100 different names for God based on the Quran. I've often thought somebody should take on that art project from the Tanakh, from the Hebrew Bible, and come up with every description of God. But in part it's begun in the Machzor. So now if you look in the Yom Kippur prayers on page 234, the prayer starts with God, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, slach lanu, machal lanu, kaper lanu. And then it bursts into the famous for us songs, Ki anu amecha. I won't offend your ears by trying to sing it, but I do want to share some of the words. Our God and God of our ancestors. So already there's two different ways of thinking about God. Our personal relationship to God, and then the God who we know from our history, from our parents and our grandparents and their grandparents, and from the stories that have been told about our families and about our people's wanderings around the world. And we ask God to forgive us and pardon us, and then we start the comparisons. We are your people, you are our God. We are your children, you are our parent. We are your servants, you are our master. Up till now, all very familiar with the prayer we already referred to, but then it goes on. We are your congregation, you are our portion. We are your heritage, you are our destiny. We are your flock, you are our shepherd. We are your vineyard, you are our guardian. We are your creatures, you are our creator. We are your spouse, you are our beloved. We are your cherished ones, you're the one who is close by. We are your people, you are the sovereign. We're the ones that you address, and you're the one that we speak to. So look at the brilliant ways that this prayer helps us to conceptualize God in lots of different ways. You have trouble thinking of God as a monarch? That's great. Think of God as a shepherd. You have trouble thinking of God as a shepherd? Fine. Think of God as a fountain. There's 1,000 million possible ways to think about the reality that the world is marvelous, that what exists exceeds our expectations, that the world has been fashioned to help us thrive if we can connect to it, and that the world isn't about abstract logic. It's about connection. It's about relationship. Each one of these terms builds a relationship between Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, and the Holy One. So that raises the question then, well, if they can do that, why can't we? So let me ask you, what are the ways you would want to talk about the divine? Let's say, and this is true for many Jews in North America, that we're uncomfortable using God language. It doesn't sound like ours. It sounds a little creepy sometimes. Sometimes the people who are the most vociferous in telling us what God wants say truly offensive and hurtful things. So what if we need to kick free of those classical terms? God, king, sovereign. Well, what if we start to think about God as Chei ha'olamim, the life of the world, as our tradition teaches us? What if we think of God as Mikor Hayim, the fountain of life? What if we think of God as the source of life? There are infinite possibilities for how we could conceive the divine. So why don't you take that project on for the day? Why don't you just keep a a writing implement next to you, and every now and then during the day, think about, all right, how would I come up with a metaphor for the marvel of the universe, for the wonder, for the mystery and the magic? And then let's come up with our own lists to go along with, not to replace the words of the Machzor. The poetry of the Machzor is what paves the way. But can we add our own images of God as best buddy, as cosmic companion, as, I don't know, resplendent butterfly? Isn't there an opening in our hearts to be able to add our own novel ways of understanding how there is a oneness that has called us into existence and invited us to thrive? And the more we're able to multiply ways of connecting to that divine, the stronger that relationship becomes. My name is Rabbi Bradley Shavit Artson. I'm the Dean of the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies at American Jewish University in Los Angeles, the Zacharias Frankel College at the University of Potsdam in Germany. I want to bless you all with a month of reflection and growth, and a Shana Tova, a year of blessing and of health.